It's great to have you with us this weekend at Living Creek. We're in a series of messages entitled There Is Another, and we're studying the appearances of Jesus before Bethlehem. There's several stories of those, and we've got a fascinating story today about a guy who was nicknamed the Cheater. I'm at the home of Tom and Natalie Fitzpatrick from our church at their pool table because it reminds me of this story. Just this last week, my son Ryan was sharing the story with me. He and his wife Sharon, they host a small group for young adults and college-age kids at their home. And for the last couple of years, they've been meeting in their two-bedroom apartment. And they would have sometimes 20 people packing the place out. And they just bought a house and moved into it over the last month. And because the owner that sold it to them didn't want to move the big heavy pool table, they inherited a pool table. And so now every Sunday night, the guys get together and try to play king of the pool table. And there's this one guy that's been the identified champion of the group. Well, Ryan and one of the staff members from the church that they are a part of knew this new guy that they invited. He doesn't have a church home or church background, and he's a new college student in town. And so they invited him to come to the group. And he came into the room, and he's kind of a very quiet, unassuming guy. And they told him, they said, the guys are playing pool in there at the pool table. You can play if you'd like. And so he goes in there, and the guy that's been the champion said, okay, here's how it goes. You beat those two guys, and I'll play you. If you can't beat those two guys, I'm not playing you. So you guys have at it. I'll jump into the games here in a minute and see who's the winner out of you three, and then I'll play. And so the new guy, he said, well, let me go to my car and get my cue stick. They said, what? And he goes out to his car, brings in a cue stick, opens up this huge case, starts screwing the pieces of the cue stick together. And they said, wow, that's a nice cue stick. I've not known anybody had a case for one. And they said, how much did it cost? He said, well, I got a deal on it. It only cost me $1,500. Only $1,500? What do you mean? What's that thing worth? And he said, it's worth several thousand. And so he kept putting it together and was getting ready to play pool. And they said, well, how did you get such a good deal on the cue sticks? He says, well, my sponsor, he covered the other costs. They said, sponsor? He said, yeah, I'm here at college on a pool scholarship. I'm on the billiards team. And so needless to say, the new guy ran the table on the first two guys, took on the champion and ran the table on him as well, and he owned the table. He could make any shot that there was. And the story is just a good example. It doesn't matter who you are, you're going to have to contend with somebody one day who's bigger than you are. And in our story today about the man called the Cheater, his name is Jacob. And Jacob had cheated his brother out of the birthright, and he kind of tricked him out of it when he knew his brother was hungry, and his brother was impulsive, and he really didn't appreciate it. He also deceived his father to get the birthright of the oldest son and the blessing from the father. And so he tricked his father in order to get his father's blessing on his life. And then after his father-in-law kind of cheats him out on a deal about marrying two of his daughters, he spends 20 years working to get the majority and the best of his father-in-law's possessions. He's always fighting people. And then we come to the text today we're going to be studying about where Jacob wrestles God. And it's an example of a pre-existent Jesus. And it reminds us one day all of us are going to come to the end of ourselves. And the Bible says everyone, every one of us, every knee will bow and every tongue confess, because there's another that we will have to face.